Just in time.
As he's known to do. It is.
Which keep me going.
Do a spin too. You might as well.
Spin.
A Celtics W.
The Evan Fournier era begins.
We don't get many of those.
The Evan Fournier era begins.
The Mo Wagner era began, actually.
The comments are gonna be blowing up with Mo Wagner hype as they were all day.
Give me a
We're
break.
all saying his name right now. Like, we all know him well.
Let's not be silly.
Mo Wagner fans.
Yeah.
It's not us. It's them.
It's again, them is just a couple of people. Yeah.
No, it's not. I want to see it. If you're in the chat right now and you're a Mo Wagner believer, stand up.
Outliers, Bobby.
More money.
You're gonna just see him. Yeah, look at it. It's already flowing in.
It's the vocal minority is what it is.
Hey, you know that meme of the guy walking with presumably his girlfriend, but he's turning around and he's like checking out that girl. You know that one? That's me, and I'm checking out Mo, and I'm like, see you, taco. Like that's what's going on here now.
I thought you would go with Tice. You know what? For you, tacos, that's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
He already had just butt fumble moment on that drive, right? Oh my God, where he got wiped out. That was hideous. He's just like
little did we know his insertion was garbage time. I could not believe that fourth just faded away the way it did.
Yeah,
well, the Bucks didn't want to play anymore. The second night of a back-to-back, waiting for them to just like the Celtics do.
Yeah, true. They're playing the Knicks tomorrow.
Waiting for the revamped Celtics.
It was close to not being garbage time. One deep three-pointer could have made that a 6-point game and very interesting.
Yeah, but it was all about Giannis. It was like Giannis didn't have it the other night. He doesn't have it tonight. It's not happening. I'm still surprised he started waving the white towel that soon though.
Well, you know what?
They were
he scared her up.
Talking about it all game.
He scared her up.
Gorman and Scal were talking about it all game. Like Giannis just wasn't into it.
Yeah. Which I was surprised. I don't know what's going on because I expected the complete opposite of what we saw 2 nights ago. I thought the Celtics, because of that, the Celtics would be in big trouble no matter what. But that wasn't the case.
Well, we're starting to see the basis of some real good defense with this team between these last 2 games. It's a good matchup for them.
No, Bobby. I don't know, man. I really don't think last game was great on defense. But okay, go ahead though.
I mean, for large stretches, they shut down Giannis or whatever. We don't have to go over that again. But tonight, we're going to completely agree. Phenomenal defensive performance, probably the best of the year. They were connected. They were getting in passing lane, specifically that first quarter. Kemba got a steal. Brown had 1. I think Rob had 2 early in that sequence. So they were just getting out in transition, moving the ball, and they were all in a string on that end. And what sticks out to me most, and I know the story of this one's probably going to be Rob moving into the starting lineup, they don't have to drop him the way they used to. And the way he's able to defend in space at this point is a huge bonus for that starting lineup because they can play the way they want to defensively. And that's going to be the story of this team going forward for the rest of this year now that they're going to be all wings instead of double big and some of this other nonsense they've been doing. Everybody can switch. Everybody can defend out in space, and it's going to make them a much better team.
It's twofold, Bobby. Obviously, the defense, and again, Ainge said it today, like he's our best defensive player. And I'm like, oh, obviously, but people dispute that. But it's offensively, it's not an accident that like people were just freer to just less pressure on them because again, that whole that Rob presence, even though they just refused, they missed him on the roll a ton of times. He could have had quite a few in there. But who's putting up comments?
Oh, did I just do that?
Yeah, you did that, Jimmy. I gave studio access one time.
Look at that. Dude, you're shipping Kemba out of town?
Get that out of there. No, get that out of there. I didn't even do that. I was literally trying to read them. I'm like, women's now. But no, I was actually.
Is this you trying to get back at Nick somehow for that time?
Jimmy just joined John's Dump Kemba parade.
No, but
on my part.
Offensively, like,
my bad.
How much more space did they all have out there? And how much more did they have to roll? And again, it's a make-miss league. And again, they hit all their threes. Everybody looks great when all of those shots go. It is what it is. But I mean, everything looked better. I'm not going to attribute it all to Rob, but I mean, this way, any concerns about Rob going against the other team starters, we can at least throw those out.
Yeah, I mean, especially against a team like the Bucks.
If you ever actually believe that this year, I mean, we all believed that last year when he was barely playing and when he did.
Well, some people believed it.
Yeah, I know. Especially in the playoffs last year. I mean, that was fair. But I think over the last month or so, we've all been begging and saying, you know, put him in there. Let's see what he can do. We think that he can roll with these guys, but you have to actually throw him into the fire, throw him into the pool, whatever you want, whatever analogy you want to use, and see if he can swim. So, and he was swimming laps today. He was swimming laps in Giannis's head, in his brain. He was all up in it. I think that was part of the reason why Giannis was a little disengaged. I don't think he wanted to mix it up with Rob. I really don't think he did. He didn't want to end up on the other side of a
block. You really believe that?
Dunk. I do believe that. I don't think he had the energy to go at Rob tonight, and he just kind of floated around. I mean, he still hit his shots. He still dunked on Taco. Rest in peace. But again, that was see you, John. That was you know, I think he saw Rob out of the game. He said, "All right, I'm gonna go get mine now." And then Rob comes in, and he goes back into his hole. That was the game. I saw tonight. I think Rob had the upper hand. Rob was everywhere. Not to turn
it's
into
one
a Rob
thing to
segment
say,
already.
Yeah, no question. It's one thing to say that he rattled them. I think that was evident, especially Giannis in certain stretches when he was getting really frustrated. I think he frustrated Giannis, but I don't know if Giannis is like scared of him. I don't think he's like, man.
No,
I
think Giannis is off with that knee or something.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, he just didn't look himself. Yeah, I think the frustration just boiled over, but he was frustrated with himself. He's like, what's going on? Where are my superpowers? You know, that's the Giannis I saw. I don't know necessarily he was thinking to himself, man, I don't want to go back in there. Rob's going to embarrass me, you know. But obviously, Rob did a hell of a job, incredible job. I mean, whether we're talking defense alone, just being at the right spot, you know, I thought one thing that stood out to me in that first quarter was just the way he closed out the perimeter, just closed out a three-pointer, hand in the face, you know, asked to box the guy out, even in front of the perimeter. I love that, you know, basic stuff. He wasn't obviously the pump fake didn't have him jumping, and he wasn't, you know, hesitant and second guessing himself, you know, defensively. Yeah, I mean, he clearly made a humongous impact.
So first off, I'm in full support of the move to start him, to move Tice. I was a big fan of the trade deadline and clearing out opportunities for these young guys because I thought that was one of many different directions they could go and things they could accomplish at that time.
I just wish it was Tristan, not Tice, who went. But then,
yeah, now you want to see Rob starting. All right.
Well, no, I mean, if Tice is here, you start Tice. If he's not, in our Oakland A's scenario, look who's the starter.
This is again, and this is the one thing I'm going to lose my mind over. Before the game, what did Brad say? Well, Rob's going to get an opportunity tonight, but when Tristan comes back, we got to see. And then the most baffling comment before the game was Brad saying, Rob's more comfortable as a starter. I mean, as off the bench.
That's an off the bench.
Well, he doesn't. He's never started. How can you say he's more comfortable off the bench?
That's a good point.
How do you even know that's true?
How do you know that's true? Like, I was joking on our text thread. Like, I'm more comfortable in Massachusetts than Montana, but I've never freaking been to Montana.
I'll tell you this.
You know, like,
unbelievable. Crazy. Absolutely.
It's the silliest comment. And again,
it's almost as silly
Brad,
as
you don't even know you don't know the other end of that. What are you talking about?
You have no frame of reference. It's this Rob Williams rot that's entered people's brains.
You know, we come up with every excuse in the book to not this guy. I don't understand it.
It's crazy.
He's more comfortable starting with the hip and everything. He's more comfortable coming off the bench.
And tonight he's threatening like a quintuple double at halftime.
Yeah. I thought he was going to do it, man. If this game was close, he might have pulled it off.
Well, let me say this: he should continue to start when Thompson comes back. Thompson's going to have to earn his way back into this rotation period, specifically with something we'll get to later when it comes to buyout centers and stuff like that are floating out there. But he's proven it over a month now. He can defend in space. He's become a lot more reliable on the offensive end of the floor. And, John, you saw it again tonight. He can possess that ball in the post a little better now. He's either going to move it right out or he's going to be able to turn and dunk on guys. And you didn't see that second half tonight, but you have seen that in recent weeks. As a starter, I'm expecting some ups and downs, and I'm willing to live with that. I mean, tomorrow against Oklahoma City and Al Horford and all that, I wouldn't be stunned if it's a rougher game for him.
Al Horford plays?
Yeah. So I actually thought this was going to be the tougher one for him. So big credit to him. This was an extremely hard matchup, assignment, all that stuff, and he absolutely thrived. So this is what you want to see. Continued progression, week in, week out, and it's been a straight upward line for him.
It's not just Rob, and a commenter just made it here, and I agree with this 100%. This was my main Rob argument is, Bobby, you were saying it's easier for him coming in, playing against second unit guys, and mine was I actually think he's going to play better and elevate the level of the starters.
I agree with that.
It's not super fair to make that judgment on a night where they hit all their threes, because I'm not saying Rob Williams is the factor and the reason why. And if they don't hit all of them, it's harder to make that case. But I do believe he has, because of all the things that he does, it will make the starters better.
No, you're right. Look at the rhythm they played with in those opening minutes. Have you seen a start like that all year from them?
No,
best start. Easily.
So and people are aware of where he is all the time, and that's the difference. So I think we got it in our own heads that, well, Tice will occasionally shoot a three and he therefore creates spacing. I think the spacing's much better with Rob because you have to account for him all the time, and it just created much more space for these guys to operate. And again, you're right, that first quarter you could see it. They were just free and easy and getting better looks. It was just and they, like I said, they had a ton of chances to hit him on the roll and they missed them. I think once they start to recognize that, because again, the starters just aren't playing that often with him. You have some Tatum minutes with him, some Smart minutes with him, but as a unit, they haven't really gotten a chance to. I think it can really evolve from there.
I think that's why it was so fresh.
And honestly,
because they have to sag. Sorry, they gotta chase him. They gotta go with him. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say that. I was just add those 2 cents there. Go ahead, Jim.
Gonna piggyback on what John said. I mean, Rob's out there. That energy is contagious. You just don't really see it with Tristan. I mean, I'm not saying that he doesn't try, but you just don't see it the same way. Rob's running up and down the court, flying around, getting his hands on passes, deflecting out of bounds, diving practically running out of the gym in the second half, trying to save that, which he did save it. The ball that was heading out of bounds, and he sort of saved it in, and I ended up back into the play on the other end. But he gives you that extra little pep when he's out there. I think that sort of rubs off on the rest of the guys. He's sort of like he's like a energy, breath of fresh air, like with the energy. And I think they need that. I think they see that and they kind of feed off of it. The passing is, we talked about, how good of a passer he is already as a big. And the fact
the passing
that
was outstanding tonight.
Yeah. I mean, the fact talking about a triple double and he had 0 points goes to show you like the types of things that he can do when he's out there. So, all credit to him for sure. I mean, I think he's every single time he's gotten an opportunity, he's run with it. It's an opportunity to start. Listen, I know Brad Stevens has excuse in the book not to put this guy in the starting lineup, but I think he's run out of actual reasons to now. I think like Rob's just in the starting lineup. I can't imagine him not starting tomorrow.
It's amazing how his hip got better just in time for him to start.
Unbelievable.
Well, it's been
timing on that. Right after the
it's quietly been 4 weeks since he said that, John. I mean, it's not like time hasn't passed yet.
I know, but amazing. It just cleared up. Yeah.
I still think that's the craziest take you've ever had.
That's actually.
Is it crazy or is
it's not even remotely crazy? It's
yeah.
Definitely
they made up an injury to play him less
No.
that he's had for 2
They
years.
didn't make it up. They didn't make up the injury. They made up.
He covered
the
not
pain.
having played him by using the injury as the excuse for why he didn't play.
Fair enough. And we all agree they need the rim protection tonight. The Bucks hit 40% from three, which feels normal for them. But if you look at the 2-point percentage, that's where they completely fell off the map. And whether it was Giannis or others, I don't know if Giannis was afraid to go inside Jimmy, but he's a deterrent. And so was Taco. Let me give you an ounce of credit on that one, Jimmy. Taco came in and played well. I don't have any doubts about Taco being able to come in when needed, when on a night like this where 2 centers are missing and being able to play well, which he did. I just don't think, as some go overboard, think that he's this missing secret weapon that they haven't utilized, and that when they put him in the game, Giannis and Embiid are going to be neutralized. I mean, there's limits to what you can say about Taco, but what's completely fair is he's an NBA player at this point. He can go in there and give them good minutes.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at what I'm hearing right now, Bobby.
You don't think he gave them good minutes tonight?
I think they survived his minutes.
Garbage time minutes. You want to talk about the first quarter? We can get right into the first quarter if you want to do that, because it was a disaster. The dude couldn't even grab a
rebounding sequence with Lopez.
Yo, Taco. Seriously, Celtics fans, listen to this one. Taco
I was watching the game like this.
Like literally went out there and proved to every single, for people who don't typically watch basketball, he went out there and proved to you that you could be 7'5", you could be 8 feet. If you don't have the skill set to rebound, you won't be grabbing any boards. And that's exactly what Taco demonstrated for everyone to see.
Jump. He can't get off the floor fast enough.
And the passing out, people just go over him. Like I don't know. I don't think he's there.
Yeah, I know the possession you're talking about. That was rough.
I beg to differ, Bobby. I beg to differ.
Oh, that was really rough.
Yeah, it's rough. I don't think he's quite there yet. I don't think.
Obviously he missed some rebound opportunities there. Brook Lopez is no slouch, or it's not. He's a big dude. He's a professional. He's a veteran. It's still not easy to go up and grab a board with him. I will say this: Taco had his hands up. He was altering shots.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
That doesn't mean he was He wasn't grabbing all the boards I wanted to see. Hand up. I thought that that was a tough look for my guy on that stretch that so kindly pointed out. But Brad went back to him, and I thought he the second stint in there was a little bit more effective. And Bobby said, and like I've been saying, this guy doesn't have to be relegated to just blowout game minutes with the last minute of the game. He can come in for spurts on mismatched situations, maybe force the other team to make some roster or lineup moves that they typically wouldn't make during a time in the game. And that's all. He's a 7'5", cheat code in a way. You just stick him out there, points, and see what happens. Don't leave him out there for 10 minutes and have the.
I don't think he's a cheat code, but he can hold his own. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. He's a cheat code because he's 7'5". That's like a literal code you put in a video game, and you get a.
Yeah, but the opposing teams. Yeah,
it's like
the opposing teams know what to do. They swung him out to the outside and put him in space.
Exploited pretty easily, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not begging for him to join the rotation. I'm just saying on a night like this, we saw the Wizards game early in the year. He's come a long way. I mean, he wouldn't have been able to do this the beginning of his rookie year. So I do want to shout out Grant too, though. He played a good game. He's had a good series here. And with Semi hurt and other wings out of the rotation now, like Green and others gone, he's another young guy that's going to get some more opportunity here.
Yep.
Yeah, they need it, right? I mean, they need help, all the help they can get at that 4 spot. And yeah, I mean, shout out to Grant because he was playing like this before the trade, right? Before the deadline came and went.
Better. He fell out of the rotation, right? So this is better.
This is better. That's true.
He gave them 31 really good minutes tonight.
He was, and look, I mean, we knew he was going to play. We said it beforehand. I mean, this was with no bigs outside of Rob. This had to be a Grant game, but they played a lot of, they played a lot of minutes together too. So, I mean, he was out there quite a bit. And
they're a nice combo. They got good rapport.
Fine. Yeah. And did fine. I hate Grant as a small ball 5, but he did the minutes they had him out there tonight were definitely useful. At 30 minutes, I mean,
I was surprised you didn't see some 5, but when I think about Teague, Ojale, they were missing a lot of bodies tonight. And they didn't have the wings to work that small ball lineup that they probably are going to try out at some point here. They're going to do more 5-out, Steven said today.
They will, for sure.
This is so refreshing to me.
Third wing in Fournier, you can do that, though. It was easy to do it when you had Gordon, and you could easily do that. When it was that lineup was great there when you had Smart with Tice and the 3 wings such a switchable lineup. I mean, and so much size all over the place. Just a really tough lineup.
For a guy who wanted to tank the season, you sound awfully excited, John.
I don't. I'm saying that gives you that flexibility there. In a perfect world, I still think this team's a first-round exit. So,
the Bucks,
I don't know.
The Bucks came in tonight winning 13-14.
No,
yeah.
I mean, saying,
I got what you meant, though. Yeah, I got you.
What I'm saying is, if the Celtics missed the playoffs this year, it wouldn't
That's
be the
John's
worst.
best case scenario.
I would rather miss the playoffs than be a first round.
Right, you're bleak. You're really
rather
dark.
miss the playoffs than be a first round exit. And I'm still worried that this team's not a top 4 team, which means they're going to run into a buzzsaw in the first round. And
this is probably the team they want, right?
I guess so, right? But I mean, you certainly, if you don't climb out of 7 or 8 and you go Philly or Brooklyn, you're in you're in some trouble. Bobby, you argued beforehand that you think that they've passed the Heat. Just with these acquisitions, I certainly don't think so.
What?
But I guess make your case.
So it's not about
Oladipo.
Well, yeah, I think the additions of Miami have been vastly overrated, and they're going to play big roles on that team. I don't think those are the kind of guys you can bring in, and if it doesn't work well, you're just going to relegate them to the bench. Aldridge, you probably could. I underrated Bielitsa a little bit. That's going to be a good one for them. But Oladipo, I think he's past his prime at this point with the injuries and years of struggle that he's gone through now. And it was a disaster in Houston. You can probably chalk up some of that to it being Houston and just a toxic environment. But physically, he's just not the same. And we saw it in Indiana early this year, too. If he's hitting his spot-up jumpers, he'll help them. But if not, to the Celtics point, it's what I've been saying all night. They're going to open up more defensive flexibility. They have another rotation player who can eat 30, 35 minutes, so they don't have to rely on deeper rotation guys. I think Ojeleye might be out of the rotation at this point if they're healthy, which is just such a huge win, huge flip. And I think stylistically, they're all going to be more comfortable, and it's just going to be a 180 sentiment-wise. I mean, look at just tonight, just that Rob insertion and better minutes from Grant. You don't even insert Fournier tonight. I can't wait for tomorrow and how this is going to look. So I'm not saying Fournier is the best player in the world. He just makes all this glue together a little more comfortably.
And Bobby, again, it's not an I told you so situation, but I mean, in the beginning of the year when they signed Tristan, and we were like, anyway, and again, there might not have been one, but that wing was so obviously the biggest need and has been so obviously the biggest issue with them all year long. So of course, Fournier positionally is what you want. And every time we were looking at a trade target, we're only talking about wings. And we were talking about Barnes being 90% of what Hayward is. Fournier is going to supplement what Hayward gave you. And the Celtics clearly were at their best when they had that type of lineup there, because that's the type of ball that they want to play, the type of defense they want to play, the type of offense. It allows
he could really be a Hayward light. He really could.
Sure. It allows them to play the way they want to play way more than now, and takes the heat off of these guys, Tatum and Brown, where they don't have to carry the load. And you're right. It's going to knock Semi minutes back. I don't know what else happens there at the wing though. If nobody steps up, and Romeo, I know Jimmy, you don't want to hear it. He is coming back next week. At this point, you're going to need something from him, because despite the fact that I keep lobbying for Nesmith minutes, I can't watch that guy play basketball anymore. I can't do it.
Yeah,
it makes my eyes bleed.
Those open looks,
you
crazy.
You don't like anyone less than Nesmith.
It's hard.
I think he likes Kemba less than Nesmith.
I like Kemba. I just don't like $37 million of Kemba. I just don't. Poor Nesmith, man.
Oh, so you're one of those guys.
Does he look? Does somebody tell me something that about him that isn't going to depress me?
He looks a little lost out there, and by a little I mean a lot. That one picture you tweeted that we all saw was when he runs to the elbow.
He ran next to Tatum, and he's like, "I'm right here." And Tatum's like, "Dude, I'm right here. I'm 2 feet away from Tatum. What are you doing here?" And as soon as he gave it up, he was like, "I'll run to the other side."
He told him, he's like, "Get out of here.
Get out of here, man."
And then he
to the other side where Rob is. Rob's like, "All right,
get out of here and take your defender with you." You don't know this already? Like, come on.
Yeah.
That was.
I love how Tatum's a little low key in that sense, because I saw a similar moment later where Mo was just kind of spazzing out trying to set like a seal, and Tatum just like runs right by him and the other guy, and it's like, get out of the way, guys.
Yeah, he's like, but you could tell Tatum's looking at, and Brown looks at him too. He's like, "What are you doing over here, man? Like, come on."
Like, he passes it to him. He just passes it back.
He's like, "I'm right here." He's like, "Get away from me."
Like,
this is the way we do this.
Are you even on this team?
I like it.
That was tough.
When's the last time?
He needs a year. I don't think it'll work.
We saw Tatum like that, right? That all-star, superstar swag, telling people where to go.
Oh my God!
Orders, screaming out orders, draining three-pointers. Assassin. They're taking it to the rim. What is he getting to the rim? He got to the free throw line like in the first 4 minutes of the game. I mean, I like to see more of it. That's pre and post all-star 2020.
This might be short-term memory, because is this the first time we've seen that Tatum since?
Yeah.
Couple of flashes in the bubble for sure, but this was very much like that pre-COVID, pre-bubble Tatum every night, where it was just like, get out of my way, like just locked in. This was so good.
High level passing
too. Break and the weeks after,
all of it, free and easy. It just felt smooth, like he wasn't forcing the issue as much. He's gotten caught too many times this year, just trying to just jam it home, just really force stuff that's not there, take really high degree of difficulty shots. Right. Yeah. This was awesome.
And that goes back to your Rob point. We've all said it. The biggest beneficiary of those Rob minutes is Brown and Tatum. It's such an easy outlet for them, and it gives them so much more space individually because they're still not traffic guys. They're still not high-level floor generals. They need to be simplified a little bit and just have that downhill guy and stuff spread out wide. And that's another bonus to Fournier, another guy who they're going to be able to kick out to and rely on in those spots too. Neesmith's not going to be playing next week. It's over.
It's over.
Yeah, but you know what though? This new style of offense,
it's over.
I like it. I dig it. This
thank the Lord. No more double
die by the three, but everyone just get back on defense. Like that's it, right? I mean, you guys can see it in that first quarter. Like this is like everyone has the green light, so to speak. But if you don't hold your own defensively, Brad's gonna pull you. I mean, at least that's the way I see things in that first half, or I saw things in that first half with Brad. And someone like Evan Fournier obviously is only going to add to that. Open looks, Tatum and Brown drawing defenses. Like that's what this team's going to be all over. The only way this team can be successful in the long run, you got to clean up the defense.
And this is what I'm saying, John.
You can't be top 10. We can't be a top 10 worst defense in the NBA. Put it that way, because that's what it is. That's exactly where the Celtics are right now.
They didn't need a significant overhaul, and we can still argue whether it was the best move long term to make a minor upgrade here rather than a larger one, a bigger scale type of move. But they were close enough to being a really good team, a complete team, that just getting one NBA starter in the room who fit well, which is what they ultimately did, was going to shake this up quite a bit. And you just the team seemed to have more hope tonight, didn't they? There was just a different level of energy.
You say that, but
bit of a wake-up call.
The shots fell. We need a sample size here, and again,
I don't think this was just a jack shots and they fell.
I don't think so either. But I want to. You need a sample size, like the same way we're not going to. I don't want to take a monster victory lap over Rob starting in the first team offense, looking better and everything flowing better just because that one game. Because they come out and they have an absolute clunker tomorrow. We're going to be right back here again. So I hate this roller coaster we go on. But if you see a 5, 6, 7 game stretch, Rob's consistently starting, Fournier comes in and he clearly fits in with what they need, and the whole level goes up, then I think we can talk about it. But it's a snapshot, and it's a game that they hit 50% of their threes. So it is a little hard to
against a tough team, though.
To make proclamations, especially considering Fournier didn't play.
Right. And also, too, Bob, you got to remember, like, this is sort of like, this is an emotional game for the Celtics, heading into it. You see new faces. You're seeing, obviously, everyone is thinking, man, not necessarily pressure, but obviously the city of Boston, people are expecting results now. Okay, here's the deal that happened, a couple of trades, new faces, show us what you got. And I think they had that energy. And the one guy on top of the list of that, had that chip on his shoulder, I think, because of everything that happened, was Marcus Smart. I think Marcus Smart was going into this one like, hey, listen, I'm going to show to everyone, you naysayers who don't think that I should still be here, I'm going to show you guys exactly how productive I can be on both ends.
Definitely for him, right?
You got a classic 3-point making, coming up with huge stops, forcing turnovers, Marcus Smart, taking charges, Marcus Smart game. And that's exactly what we saw against the Bucks.
Yep, one of those guys who set a tone early in this one, and he did it his way. It looked rough with the shot selection early, and then all of those threes just started burying in the third.
Don't mind me, not a Wi-Fi issue. I'm just stepping out of the room for a split second. You guys keep going.
So that's Marcus Smart, is when the shots fall, you love them. When they don't, you don't love them. And I mean, that's again, early in that game, some of those layups he took, unbelievable. He looked like a human pretzel going to the rim, throwing up ridiculous. I mean, you got to know when to. He just makes a decision and he just sticks with it. I guess I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it's like he's like, yeah, I'm definitely driving to the rim and I'm going to lay up this ball. I don't care how many defenders are around me or how I have to twist my body. But second half, those shots started to fall, and that's good Marcus. If he's missing those shots, then we're talking about bad Marcus. So again, it's one of those, the shots were falling tonight, and you want to give the Celtics credit, of course. I mean, that third quarter was unreal. I mean, they put them away in that quarter. They were, everything was falling. Credit to them. And Marcus, Tatum, Kemba, I thought had a strong game. Pretty much from start to finish. We didn't really talk much about him. And then Rob, I'll say this, and John's not here, but Rob starting isn't even is that a no? But John would just pile on. But I mean, you had to force Brad's hand to start Rob, and I'll never really understand why. Danny had to literally trade Tice in order to get Rob in the starting lineup.
Because he missed that 3-pointer, though. That's why, Jimmy.
That was what did it.
Yeah.
And I mean, look what you saw tonight from Rob. And again, it's one game, but the style of play was very similar to what we've seen from him coming off the bench in lesser amount of minutes. We already know his numbers over 36 minutes are awesome. So I don't think it really was a surprise to a lot of people to see that production continue with better players around him for more times, for a longer period of time during the game.
John just said it. Let's see it some more. Oklahoma's going to be a tricky matchup. I think this was a really good matchup for him. They have
this isn't a one-game thing.
They have a good game plan when it comes to playing this team. They build that wall. Grant's able to get into more comfortable, matchups next to him. So I think it all worked well for the front court here, where when they're able to pack the paint against this team and protect the rim the way they did, it all worked out. Now there's going to be some other teams that exploit them a little bit more. There'll be a lot more switching-oriented games. And on a night like tonight, let's be real. I don't think they would have been able to play Grant for 31 minutes against other kind of teams and have that work. And so there would have been more pressure on Ojales and those other type of guys. My point is, this wasn't an obvious move, and there weren't obvious things for Brad to do throughout the course of the year. There just weren't a lot of options. Like, Rob's been playing for a month now, and they've still been losing games. He's been playing more and more in recent weeks. They lose to the Grizzlies. They lose to the Bucks on Wednesday. This was a personnel problem all throughout. Now, maybe early in the year, you could look at Rob's minutes being a little low and say, all right, he's got to be more involved here. But I'll throw this back at you guys. Was he wrong in this tight sense to have everybody be involved? I know you guys just want to shelve Thompson in particular right to the side, but there's these certain ideologies that Brad carries, one of which is keep everybody involved, get everybody a role on this team, and have nobody lost in the fold. And that's just something he rolls with, and that's why you had three centers playing all year.
You had no choice when you bring in a veteran like Thompson and you make promises to him, and he's a clutch guy, and you want to do right by that, and you don't want to have, you brought him here, and
it's not like he sucks. He's playing solid.
You brought a guy here who has a pedigree, who you sold, who you want to make nice with his agent and his pals, and you want to keep relations good, and you bring him in here, and you sold him on his role and what it's going to be. You can't just not give it to him when 5 games in, you're like, holy crap, Rob Williams got really good. And Tice got us to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and he might be our third best big. And you could tell probably 5 games into the season that was the case. And what are you going to do? Pull the carpet out from under him? So they stuck with him 15, 20. It became so obvious so early that he should be the specialist who comes in there and bangs a little bit and gives you a few fouls a game and some physicality, but he should be playing the third most minutes among those 3 bigs. And that's I think the only case we were making all year, that it was pretty obvious that in this big rotation, Thompson deserved the fewest minutes. It just took forever to get there, and now you have no choice with Tice gone. He's going to slot in. But my goodness, if he starts over Rob when he's healthy, I'm taking a week. Okay. I'm not going to be.
Does it matter though? I mean, if he starts and then he plays,
how can you
watch? It does matter.
How can you watch tonight him play with that first unit and say, oh yeah, let's get some Tristan in there. It matters.
I know the first 5 minutes of the game matter somewhat, but I say this about Drummond too.
But it's all the rotations. It's continuing to stay with those guys.
That's true.
You get 2 big chunks in the first and the third, and to close the game. And really, the only opportunity he had to play with them, he'd have a few minutes with Tatum in the second quarter, but really it would just be the last few minutes of the game where you'd get Rob in there. And how many of those times were like, wow, they really played well with Rob in the game together, Right. So that it does matter, point. I think.
Yeah.
I just think we've reached a point where it's like they need more reps than ever together, because in the postseason, it's sky's the limit, if you will, right? for you Celtics fans that are dying to see more of this. Like, this is what we were talking about for weeks or months, or in John's case, months. I'll
Back to
be
the playoffs,
honest.
yeah.
For me, it was weeks. But John been saying this since before the new year, I think. So
I've been banging this drum for a while, guys. Even in the bubble, where it's like, why are we like?
No, you saw it.
We do see that he's doing a lot of things out here, right?
Yeah.
Again, forget all of that. The best part about Rob is that he doesn't look at all anything you've ever had concern about how he does or his role in this and that. Like, even from the beginning of the season, those moments are fewer and fewer where he looks lost or he has that lapse. Even though we thought it was a little ridiculous that people were like hanging those things on him as like, oh, he can't play because of that. But he looks so comfortable out there. He's always in control. He makes smart plays all the time. You know, he really is playing a clean game too.
I love what Jimmy said too, because I do want to hammer in on that, this Brad notion that they really had to trade 3 guys to open up some of this stuff. Rob in particular, I don't think the Neesmith and Pritchard stuff matters all that much on the low end of that. But the question becomes, if they're going to go this Andre Drummond route, do you end up in that same position again where you're splitting center minutes between 3 different guys and it really can't break that mold because of the way Brad views the situation? I think that's a real concern. I do advocate Drummond coming in, but I can see a situation there where Drummond's getting a little bit, Rob's getting a little bit, Thompson's getting a little bit, and then you're in a similar spot as you were before. It's such a tough line to walk, but Jimmy's right. Can you get Brad to change?
I think it's a great chance. Your boy Thompson is playing. I don't know, tic-tac-toe with Taco at the end of the bench, man. I don't know. Like, if it comes down to it, I don't think.
You think he's gonna bench Thompson?
I mean,
if Drummond came in, I think what Bobby said.
Like, dude, Drummond was beasting it this season, man. People like that. People
going to be in a
love
position
to
to
hate
think,
on Drummond.
I have to play 11 guys. You know?
No, but that's not what I'm saying, Jimmy.
No.
I'm saying you're going to end up in the same spot you were before.
Yes, I agree. That's what's going to happen.
You probably will to an extent. Yeah, I think you probably will. But I think
you're going to be back where you were.
But I think
is it worth it?
Thompson's minutes go down less. Grant's probably on the outside looking in too. And Rob's at the point now where he's got to get his 20 to 25. I still think he's got to get 20.
But it's going to be on the low end again. He's going to be back to 19-20, and we're going to be losing our minds again because you're going to watch this, Drummond in there doing Drummond things, and the offense is going to look clunky again, and he might get some stats, and we're going to sit here and argue about whether he's good or not. But like, it's going to be that same 3 big rotation. If you bring Drummond in,
it's going to be big Greg Monroe energy. Is what it's going to be.
If you bring Drummond in, Thompson has to.
Better than that.
Thompson's got to go down to single-digit minutes.
I kind of sit on the fence on this one because Jimmy's right, and Joe Sway's too mentioned this. If Thompson just keeps lulling along here and has just this minimal impact that he's had throughout the year, you're in a tough spot going into the playoffs, just leaning on Rob for everything. There'll be games where he fouls a lot. There'll be games that aren't great matchups for him. Even series. If you end up in a series that isn't a great matchup for Rob and you need a guy on Embiid or some of these other situations, bam, you're going to want another guy who can get on the boards, do some of this other stuff.
Aren't there other aren't there bad matchups for all the other guys too? No,
but I mean, you need a body, and to get a body like this, a really good player, it's tough to pass up.
I understand,
I agree,
but look, not everybody. How many perfect centers are there out there? Like 2, 1. Okay, every night there's going to be a situation where or perfect anything out there. Some nights there's going to be nights where it's like, here's a tougher matchup for this really good player that we have on our team. Not every night is perfect, but like, he's just a better overall player than everybody else who plays that position. So you live with it. Again, it's so strange that you're like so worried about matchups, and some nights at Rob, there are things that Rob happen that Rob might not be able to handle as well as a different type of person. But by the same token, he's going to create so many problems for other people because of what he does that it's going to counterbalance.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against that. Let me reframe this for you guys. They're in a tricky position with Drummond where he's definitely better than Thompson, as Joe Sway mentioned. But to get him in here, you're going to have to make certain promises and Like things like he's probably going to have to start. He's probably going to have to play quite a bit. And they're just going to have to walk this tricky line where he might like bump into Rob's minutes here and mess with that a little bit. But you also need him because he's so much better than Thompson. That's what I'm trying to say here. So like, how do you walk that line?
He's so much better than Thompson. This is an issue for the Thompson fans. I don't think this is a huge issue for the Rob fans out there. I still think with Drummond, Rob's going to get his 20-plus minutes a game. At this point,
would you promise Drummond the starting role to get him in here?
No, I don't think Drummond's looking. I don't think Drummond can expect a start. But where is he starting?
Well,
Lakers.
That's the thing, Jimmy, because Charlotte. Of the places mentioned on the list, Charlotte and Boston are the two you would think pathways to most minutes. Actually, Charlotte the most.
He'll play a lot with the Lakers too.
Charlotte more than Boston.
Here's
Charlotte
the question.
most, but with Boston, the only hook here is revitalize your career, and I'm going to give you 25 minutes a game. The Celtics have to sell him on that. If they bring him in here and he's playing 16 minutes a game, sharing the court with, that's going to be bad. So, he's coming in here to play 25 minutes a game.
I think he wants to play 20, let's call it 20, and he wants to go to a team that has a chance, whether that's, the Lakers or the Celtics or whoever. Charlotte, I think. Charlotte, yeah. Charlotte's, obviously a team now that you have to take seriously, but I think the minutes are going to be somewhat similar, around those teams. Now, does he have to start? I don't know. If you have to promise that and all of a sudden he's starting over Rob, I don't think Rob's going to take exception to it. Again, I think Tristan Thompson is the odd man out here, and Grant Williams to an extent. I mean, those minutes are going to get eaten up. You're talking 20 minutes now. But I still think Rob gets his. Drummond is so much better than Thompson, as Bobby just said. I mean, you just look at Drummond this season.
So much better.
Everybody loves to trash Drummond, and it's low-hanging fruit, I guess. He's, the traditional big who can't shoot. But this guy is a double-double machine. He rips down boards. He's had like at least three games this year of 20-plus rebounds. 20-plus rebounds. Like, there is still value to that. Like,
he's a center for boomers, okay? Not for the kids.
You know what? He's a force down low. I know he's not gonna open up the court and drain threes and whatever, but he serves a very specific purpose, and he does his job well. And there's a reason that all really good teams want him right now. So everyone on your high horse, like Drummond this, Drummond that, relax. Like, this guy can still play, and he's better than some of the centers you have. So let's not complain about if he actually does want to play for the Celtics. It's only good thing. You're not going to play him and hurt the team by playing him. Like, he's going to contribute positively. For everyone out there who wants the Celtics to get better this season should be thrilled that he even took the interview with Ainge.
Yeah, it cracks me up, man. The picky Celtics fans, I'll never understand. When your team's under 500, like, listen, if the Celtics are in the mix, like, count your blessings, man. Like,
this is free stuff.
For some of these
it used to be, would you trade for Drummond? Now it's just like, would you accept Drummond?
You're walking down the street and you see this, like,
you're at the top. You're one of the top teams, on that list. So that's a good thing, because some of these buyout candidates, they're coming from teams that have a record that's not that far off from where the Celtics stand right now. So it's like, this is a unique case for Drummond, because he can obviously put himself out there, a deep playoff run, or at least a team like the Celtics will say, hey, listen, with you, Eastern Conference Finals. Without you, maybe not. So you could sell him on that for sure. And I think he's buying that stock, because he's thinking to himself, yeah, okay, I can go to Charlotte, maybe get similar exposure, or maybe a little bit more than that. But then how far are they going to go in the postseason? So, it's a good thing for the Celtics for sure.
It's a very thin line, because the people that hate him have good reason to, and I was one of those people at the money he was at, because he was just a disaster at $28 million. He wasn't anywhere close to being worth that. Now, as a minimum guy, it's the other end of the spectrum. He's probably a little bit underrated in that sense. Defensively, he was a big part of making the Cavaliers one of the best defenses in the league to start this year.
It's a free, like, all-star caliber player. I mean, you can't argue against it. The fear that everybody has is, what will Brad do? And again,
chemistry, that kind of stuff.
Tristan factor, it's the chemistry factor, and it's the suppression of Rob, who is your third best player. Okay, for whatever, I don't care what you want to say. He's your third best player right now.
Free throws gets a little tricky now too.
Actually, your third best player overall. So you have to play. You cannot you can't go backwards and go into Rob into 18, 19 minutes and Tristan for 18, 20 and Drummond for 20. I think that'll be a mess. If we know, I think if every Celtics fan knows that if he comes in, Tristan's going to go down to single digit minutes and that's fine, so be it. It's going to be hard though, because you
can't dump Tristan. Yeah, you can't at this point.
You can't buy him out. He's got another year. So you're just stuck with it. You just got to live with Tristan, you know?
And you realistically need 3 guys. Again, I'm going to be concerned.
He's got to be a good sport about it. He's got to be like, okay, I'll play 8 to 10 minutes a game or 12 minutes or whatever.
And he's got to be, because he did not come in here with the right amount of performance. This COVID thing, if it was what it was a joke, and he deserves to be knocked down the ladder because of that. So he's got to come in here with a little bit of humbleness. Well, still, I mean, if he was out at all and putting himself even in that position, that's something you got to look at and be like, come on. So, again, I think just from play alone, forget that part, but play alone even.
Yeah.
He's got to be a little humble because he hadn't played well. I'll say this too, though. This is the tricky thing about losing Tice. In that situation, you'd have 3 horrendous free throw shooters at center, which is tough.
That is tough. That's a good point. I do want to quickly point out, and we're going to keep going a little bit here, but a monster number again in the stream here. We had a ton of you guys joined us for the trade deadline special, which was huge audience, which was awesome. For those of you tuning in for the first time who don't already subscribe to our YouTube channels, please subscribe. Either the main channel or our Celtics channel, just letting you know, we go live after every single game. And anytime there's breaking news, other times during the season, we will be moving this show to daily sooner rather than later. And we do have a new sponsor coming on next week, and it's going to involve you, the viewers, and the people who are with us all the time, where we're going to give you guys an opportunity to share your voice a little bit. So
you hear that, guys? You get to talk your shit.
You get to talk your shit.
People have been dying for it.
All you message board warriors can now be voicemail warriors.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, subscribe to our YouTube channels, and again, good having you guys on board. Jimmy, you were about to go.
No, I wasn't.
Did you have something?
Nope.
I want to get something from Joe Sway.
What are you talking about?
We didn't hear Joe Sway's trade deadline thoughts. What were your thoughts from yesterday?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what do you got,
Joe? I love it. I mean, listen. 2 second-round picks, Jeff Teague, yeah, of course. I mean, obviously the biggest if is what's going to happen during the offseason. But, I mean, for his skill set, for someone like Evan Fournier, the way he's going to match in this team, and, Danny Ainge, what he has, obviously he's crazy about it. I think there's a good chance he signs. I mean, I know it's so early to say that, but I just think the Celtics are in a position to appease someone like him, right? Who's been in Orlando his whole career. Obviously, he's had great seasons prior to this one. This has been his best one, and you put him in this situation to be on a winning team and be one of the key pieces, whether it's right off the bench or one of the guys that's going to get a lot of open looks. I think he's thrilled about that. What's he have, like 78 threes on the season, and Jayson Tatum, all the stuff we were saying at the beginning of the show. Tatum, Brown, those are the kind of scorers that Fournier is just going to love. Why Aaron Gordon or other key pieces of that team, right? They couldn't necessarily always put the ball on the floor and score the way these guys can. And I think that alone is going to just open things up a lot for Evan Fournier here. So I'm excited about it. Again, not a first-round pick in there. You didn't throw in Neesmith. You didn't throw in, one of the guys that we're still trying to wait and see.
Unfortunately.
If they're going to pop or not. Unfortunately, see, exactly. So, I mean, I like it more because of that. No first-round picks, no Neesmith. It's a gamble, but I think it's a gamble well worth it. I mean, the Celtics are in this position right now. You have to take gambles.
Thoughts on Luke Cornett?
Perk's really excited about it. That's most of the scouting report I got up to this point. But yeah. I mean, it's about Fournier, obviously. That's a big grab right now.
I've had to remind myself what that guy's name is like 7 times over the last day or so. I had to hop back and Google.
Well, because if they get Drummond, Luke. I mean, that's the real question. I don't know if people have really thought this through.
That's just like Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague's out there. Find a new home. You just got to find a new location. Fournier, though, this is interesting. This is interesting on Fournier. I've always known him as a pull-up guy, and it's true. He's 41% on pull-up threes, 36% on catch and shoot. So that is going to be a tricky line that they walk with him. How much on the ball is he going to be versus how much off the ball? Because there obviously are quite a few guys in front of him on the roster who are ball dominant, who need their ball time. So there's really not going to be a ton for him. We've talked about should he start, should he be that second unit guy? It almost does kind of seem like he might be like the perfect sixth man for this team.
I love how people are bringing up, or at least Scal did, or other people have too, the whole Isaiah Thomas thing. Oh, no, we didn't know when Isaiah came. Oh, yeah, he really helped this team off the bench. And then, of course, look what happened. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but to a certain extent, I can see that happening for sure.
Yeah. He's going to be Isaiah.
I don't think he's going to be putting up 29 a game like Isaiah did, but, you know.
He's going to be Isaiah. Mo Wagner's going to be Jonas Jerebko. And our guy Luke.
I'll take it. Jonas.
He's going to be Luigi Datome. It's going to be the same thing as 15.
Oh, there's only one Luigi Datome.
Jerebko, he was really cooking right before he got traded too. So
that's what I think when I see Wagner. I'm like, this guy's got nothing. But when Jerebko came over, I remember distinctly, I'm like, this guy's not going to do anything for them. And then he ended up becoming a real rotation guy. I don't know what to think about Wagner. The numbers are horrifying, but who knows?
No.
John, we got into Jerebko talk. John's not having it. He's mad.
No, I mean, let's not talk about. We're sitting here trying to talk about finding minutes for Drummond and Rob and Tristan. Like, let's not talk about Wagner. You like?
Yeah, I
liked what I saw Wagner tonight. Little hustle during the quarter three. Took a shot to the face.
I liked when he took it to the rim and missed a layup. That was actually seeing him put the ball on the floor like that. But that was a pretty good drive.
The spin move, yeah, that was. Yes,
I wonder if he can play some four.
I didn't think he had that.
Slapped Grant's butt.
I don't think he thought he had that either.
He was surprised when he got there.
He was like, "Oh, I almost made that."
Whoa, what am I doing here?
All right. He kind of had like a smirk, like, "All right, I like it."
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm just glad they gave this team a chance. And
they're not.
That's really what they have here.
Yeah,
and you're right. Wagner and Luke. What's his last name?
Huh?
Cornette.
Yeah. They don't matter, but Fournier in particular gives this team a chance. It costs nothing. I know you want to tank, John, which I still don't see the reason.
I don't want to tank. If they happened to just lose enough games to fall out of the playoffs, I don't think it'd be the worst thing.
That's the same thing.
Right. Sound like the worst.
No, tanking
is deliberate.
Tank is deliberate. Tank is trade away all the good players so the players who are left can't possibly win. That's tanking. Okay.
No, but I thought you meant no. I don't think he meant. Bob, you didn't mean John wants to see the team blown up. I thought you meant you wanted to see them start benching guys.
He just wants them to fall into the lottery, which like. How much would they gain?
Which is what Bobby wanted
for the last 2 months. Tatum,
Well, no, I said go one of two ways: improve or do that, and they improve.
Yeah, so you guys just want to go.
Well, you wanted to sell. I don't think selling was the right play. But that's the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what I said is this: they're not going to tank, and they're not going to win the title, so they're going to end up in the playoffs most likely, and they'll lose in the first or second round, most likely. But if they can at least play with some passion, play with some heart, I think a lot of fans will at least, pull less of their hair out for the remainder of the season.
Jimmy, I mean, that's a good point. It's been excruciating. We've done this post-game show every single night. Obviously, we started last year when they came into the bubble, and we've been doing this. I mean, we have not taken a night off. So it's exhausting talking about losing the team, win one, lose one, win one, lose one, or in the case of this team, lose way more than they've won since their 8-3 start. It's exhausting. It's depressing. It's demoralizing. We follow this team. You want to see them. We would much rather watch them play well and have something to talk about instead of the, one up, one down, one up, one down. So and you're right. The effect, the psychological effect it has on guys like Tatum and Brown and sulking and this and that. And Ainge said it in his presser today. 8:30 a.m. Bobby didn't get up in time for it, but I answered the bell. I answered the bell, so I was in there.
We're all on that 2 a.m., 3 a.m. schedule, right? So
I told you guys, you between 3 and 6. That's the only time you can.
3 to 6 now. Oh,
I missed
you lost
2 to 6.
I missed the part. I missed the part where John asked Danny. Danny, would it be the worst thing if you just slid outside the playoffs? Would that be the worst?
So Danny, what are you doing?
I love the beginning of it too. Like he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I think it was Corrales. He's, "Good morning, John. How are you feeling?" He's like, "I slept, so I'm feeling good."
Yeah, exactly.
That's Danny.
All right, I'm good.
We all came on here.
Real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No. The point being is,
what were you gonna say?
I'm going to give Bobby credit here because the thing that he said was what Bobby was saying, which was the reason Bobby's main point of why they had to do something was you can't do it to these guys, and that was our reasoning for not tanking. You couldn't sell pieces off. That would look bad. But Bobby's point of improving whether or not you can get deep into the playoffs because you can't do it to these guys, that was actually whether or not it's entirely true and the entire reason why Ainge did it. That's what he said was the impetus for making this trade was I felt we were down and we needed something, and I didn't necessarily want to trade this year for a theoretical rental player like Fournier is in a contract year, but I felt I had to do it because I had to give those guys something in that room because I felt like we were sagging. So if that's true and if that's the real deal, Bobby, you were saying that like you got to do something for these guys because eventually, like if they keep going out there,
it's going to explode like a bomb.
They're going to get bummed out. So
that was good for Danny.
Well, they already were. I mean,
yeah.
I was calling them the Boo-Hoo brothers, Tatum and Brown. I mean, you ever seen two more miserable like guys out in the court?
Because they were getting the blame. Their GM was coming down on them. Their play-by-play guy was coming down on them. And everyone
and Paul Pierce had a lot more fun than those two. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and they sucked.
And Twan got all the blame. Remember that? Twan used to get all the blame.
I was like, what? I can't hear you over this three.
Yeah.
But Brown and Tatum. Credit to these guys. They've eaten a lot this year, and I know they haven't been the best. We've called them out at times. But they go to 2 Eastern Conference Finals in 3 years, carry this team through both those runs, and then they come out here with Semi Ojeleye and Grant and Tice, and just those are like their 4th best players on the team, and Thompson's just slouching. And because of all of that, they're going to get called out as not being good enough, not having what it takes to be all-stars, high-level players, and that it even continued late into this week. Oh, you might have to trade one of these guys. No, what they needed was a little bit of support and a real roster around them. This roster coming into the year was a joke. And I know you guys made the argument that you should have held out for something better with the TPE. But Zarin knows this. The team knows this. There really isn't like a golden egg in the offseason that would have been a perfect 28. It kills to use 17 of it, but they got a really good player for nothing. So you take that. That was the TPE. Like you get a really good player for nothing.
I know. It's less that, Bob. Go ahead, Josue.
Well, no, that's exactly what. Right before we sign off, right before the deadline, right, or the last post game show we had, we went around the table and we all predicted what was going to happen. I said, look,
nothing.
If a guy off the bench, a low guy, someone that can just be effective, a rotation player, then that's a win because that could be what this team is missing. Not that it's going to put them right up there with the Brooklyn Nets, but it could spark everyone. It could bring enthusiasm. We saw the energy. We saw the difference, tonight against the Bucks. But to what Bobby just said, I just want to make it clear too that we're also going to hold these two responsible if this doesn't pan out, right? Like if Fournier doesn't work out, if this doesn't translate into wins, it's completely accurate or appropriate, I should say, for us to say, well, what's going on now? What's the problem now with Tatum and Brown, right? Before the team around them, they don't have enough weapons. All right, well, you got a 20-point scorer. He can knock down 3-pointers. He doesn't need the ball in his hands to be dominant, So let's see what happens. And then on the other end of that, we can say, okay, that was the missing piece. Or we can say, all right, well, what's the problem now, right? So how good is this team? Bobby, you say that now the pieces are there. All right, well, let's see what happens because if this team is a first-round knockout, like John talked about at the beginning of the show, or is bounced out in the second round because they run into the Bucks or the 76ers, a lot of people are going to be upset into thinking or get upset and saying, Oh, well, Danny could have went for the big fish. Why didn't he get Vucevic? You know, why is Marcus still here? That's going to be a conversation. That's going to be the narrative. If this,
so how do you feel about that one? That they didn't get
out early in the postseason.
How do you feel about that one? That they didn't get Vucevic, that they didn't get Gordon. They weren't willing to extend themselves for something like that. It seems.
We talked about it before the deadline. Does either one of those players make this team, way better than the Nets? Does that make them right up there in the NBA Finals right away? No. If that's the answer, then you hold on to Marcus and let's see what happens in the offseason. See if there's another, perennial all-star or someone of that caliber that you can reel in here.
Here's the problem, and this is the problem with where they are. It's not that Fournier doesn't make them better now. It's not that you don't know what you could have done with the TP in the offseason. It's that to re-sign Fournier, to re-sign Smart, to extend Rob, to have Tatum's contract kick in, you're flying into the tax and you're going to have an insanely expensive team that is not championship caliber. And so you're spending crazy amounts of money on this team, which is still not at the level that can compete for a title and with very little opportunity to improve them unless you hit a home run in the draft or somebody develops in ways that you don't see coming. So this is your roster and it's expensive and you're in the tax and you are very, very limited in how you can improve it, largely because you've got the Kemba situation and him for a couple more years eating that $37 million. And it is where you are. It's money well spent on Tatum and Brown. For sure, you need that. But like I said, is the only way you're going to stay competitive is if you retain all of your pieces. You have to retain Marcus. You have to retain Fournier. You have to extend Rob. And so once you do that, you are an insanely expensive team. Insanely expensive.
That Smart one is still the one I really labor over too, because I fully understood the people who said you lose your point guard, you lose your heart and soul, all that stuff. But just from a strictly roster management perspective into the future, there's a real case for I don't know if I could have got it done because Denver did ratchet up the offer and we talked about that. But if and Ainge said today, Smart wasn't on the table. It was completely made up. And I believe that. That was probably Orlando really pushing for him. If they had the chance to do Smart for Gordon and then pull in Fournier and Gordon, so you get a 2-for-1 sort of here, depending on how he does in Denver, that could be a tough one to live down. Because I think Gordon could have been a really nice upside piece into the future for this team.
You can't sign and trade, is that right?
Yeah. No, the ways to improve in this offseason aren't great. It's essentially going to be keep this group together.
You have to run it back. This team, as they finish this year, is your team at best next year.
Not to mention,
and that's it.
They'll probably have to use this year's pick to dump Thompson. So that's like another thing they could have done here,
which is
that they're just going to end up wasting down the line.
Yeah. I know. It's, again, the Thompson thing, and again, this is what kills you now. Not only is Thompson superfluous, but Thompson's the reason you were hard capped this year, which is the reason you ended up having to dump Tice, and now is a reason why you might have to use assets to move him out next year.
To get him out, right?
The same way you did with Cantor. So please take our guys and take our picks.
I'll staple a first-round pick to it. Come on, take them.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear.
And so you don't want it to cost Smart too. What you mentioned, John, if they were going to do all this now, it would have cost Smart on top of all of that. But at some point, you have to cash in for Smart because I think the day is coming where his value is going to start sliding.
Well, they're in a tricky.
That contract, that's your most tradable contract. It's right there. It's easy to match deals. And you still have a little TPE left. I mean, I don't think they'll still trade Marcus.
They're in a tricky spot. And so
here's the other factor.
I might have traded him.
See, that's the thing. I was just going to say, I don't think they would trade him during the offseason, but when you're in a tricky spot, that's when the weird trades happen in the NBA. We've seen this before.
I hate this possibility too, but that scenario we just played out there, if you can't dump Thompson, would have put them in the tax. So maybe you ratchet up the offer to get rid of Thompson in that spot, like maybe give up some more picks and pull Gordon in here just because it's for the good of the team long term.
So I want to address this comment because, again, you're right. This is where you are, though. Now, any sort of franchise-altering moves involved.
I don't like it.
Huh?
I don't like that.
I don't like it either. What I'm saying is the reason you're stuck is
we're 1 year away from this conversation happening. Go ahead, John.
This is where you are. The only way you have to possibly do stuff and improve, and Jimmy's saying he's good. We're going to give you one more shot here. Yeah?
I'm good.
Is something like this. You need to do something seismic, and it has to involve Tatum or Brown, and everybody assumes it's Brown, not Tatum. But what are you gaining there? It's
lateral. Yeah,
it's lateral.
It could be worse too.
John, you know why I'm also what goes with this, right? I mean, let's say hypothetically a year from now, this team has a record that reflects something similar to what we're seeing right now, right? Is Jaylen Brown going to still want to be in Boston? Like, let's keep it 100, right? Let's be honest here. If you're Jaylen Brown, you want to give this another go for a third try? Like, listen, guys, this isn't working. We haven't gotten close to the NBA Finals since the bubble. I'm thinking ahead here in 2022, right? Like,
that's the problem.
What's going to keep Jaylen from saying, yeah, guys, no, I'm still all in. Let's do this.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works. How many times have we seen this before? Young NBA players, young all-star, players, caliber players say, look, either I want to play with those guys or, you know what, I'm going to start my own thing somewhere else. Like,
if you're a second division team, if you're an also-ran, if you're clearly outside of that top 3 in the Eastern Conference and you're going to be for the next year or two, that's reason enough to say, I might start looking elsewhere. So you're right. You're only a year or two away from that where you might have to start considering it. And then that's where you can get creative. I mean, in 2 years, you might have to do that. You will have Kemba coming off the books theoretically there as well. So that's something. I think what you have to do when you're talking about find somebody for Tristan, this is not Kemba hatred. It's just ultimately you might need to have to find a way to get somebody to take Kemba and pay them to do it in the offseason. And that might be the only way.
No, I think that's selling way too low on him.
It is. But I mean, that's where it's that or,
he's still you run into a similar problem if you lose him for nothing. It's a real 20-point scorer that gets split for a guy who can't score. And then all of a sudden your team's back where it was early this year.
You don't make up for it in terms of player caliber, but it gives you some flexibility to do other things.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so long of a window here. I know they're not in like a position soon to win a championship, but they got to wiggle this out as best they can to give themselves the best chance possible because, like you said, I don't know if there'll be a third Tatum and Brown contract, and you can't like do a quick restart here. Maybe that would be a good risk to take if you could get into the draft and find a third star steal, but that's just so risky. When you have a team in place right now as they do that's close, they're not quite there, but they're close. I think you just have to ride with that because if you go in the opposite direction, there's no telling whether you're going to get back or not. Look at the Nuggets. I think they've already missed their shot.
This isn't negativity either. It's just the reality. The reason anybody, and again, a lot of people wrote about this as well.
How have the Nuggets missed their shot?
The conference. I don't know if they've missed it.
They've got no.
Yeah,
you have to look at the Celtics and do an autopsy of the team right now. Is this team and this roster, a title contender? Because this is who they're going to be next year, and that's the situation they're in. And there's not a lot of ways to improve it. So that's what happened with the Fournier deal. The people who don't like it, I think, are looking at it and saying, great, but what are you next year? When you look to improve, how are you going to do that? It's going to be really, really challenging.
My only thing is if they didn't do it, there was a real chance they go into the offseason, there's nothing there, and then they get absolutely nothing for $28 million. That was a real possibility, and I don't think that was a risk worth taking. Especially with the consequences of like how this year just could have gone so wrong.
I think that's the biggest reason why Isaiah Thomas is being mentioned so many times. One, because that's the last time Danny did a midseason deal. His name was being brought up before the trade deadline, but also it's being brought up after the trade deadline because that was sort of the surprise that helped that Celtics team get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And it's sort of reminiscent of that scenario because it's like, maybe he doesn't have to quite be that good, but he has to be significantly better than who he's been, or at least be able to carry that over to the Celtics and produce, if not the same numbers, but even more than that, maybe over 20 points. And all of a sudden, okay, now the Celtics in the best of 7 series, whether it's the Nets, Philly, in a perfect world, or I think that's how you put it, right, John, earlier? Like, the Celtics have a decent shot, right? They have a fighter's chance.
This is where you're stuck here. And again, this is the bummer.
15 players in the East, though, right? Tatum and Brown. Again, my point earlier, though, if that's not enough, then what are we talking about here? Maybe these two just, maybe we're a year away from having that conversation.
And that's why you needed that. This is what kills you is it. Yeah, there's a million things that happen here that kind of led them to this situation with Kyrie leaving and the domino effects off of that, and them just having to reset on the fly and bringing in Kemba hastily to try to plug that hole, and just always kind of playing catch up, reacting to things that happen. Gordon left. Okay, let's get a TPE. Let's sign Tristan to a mid-level. And all of these moves have kind of hamstrung you. But at the end of the day, if they had just hit on a pick or two, you'd be in a much better place right now. And again, you're not finding stars at the 14 slot, but even contributing players right now that you felt good about that are in the rotation would make you feel a lot better about this team right now. The fear is you don't have anything coming up. And that's the problem, which is why if they happen to sort of fall into the lottery this year and got lucky, you need something. This is your best bet right now, sadly, is cashing in a lottery ticket and hitting on somebody in the draft. That's the only way you're going to get an infusion of talent at this point. And it's kind of scary because when you're stuck in that mediocre zone and you're constantly picking in the 17, 18, 19 spot, that's a hard spot to do it from. So it's a challenge. That's all. A team that had everything and a ton of assets and young players and a roster, busting with talent is now in a position where it's hard to find ways to improve.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. So when I booted myself off, did somebody bring up the idea of having to trade either Tatum or Brown? Is that what I missed?
It started with Brown as the only big swing you can take.
What did I walk back into? What are you guys saying?
Yeah, I mean, no, I was starting by saying there still is real case that they should have traded Smart here, right. as the first step toward all those concerns.
So right. We brought this up numerous times over the last month. I'm not saying that the Celtics should trade Tatum or Brown, but the possibility that one of those two guys might have to go at some point because they just might not play that well together. Two young players.
I completely disagree with that.
There's a chance, Bobby. I mean, I'm not saying today.
They've made two East Finals together.
They have when they needed a lot of help too at that point. Now they're
but they were the central pieces in it.
One of them. Yeah.
The idea is that they're 1A and 1B now, right? So what I'm saying is if that doesn't work, then the Celtics have to make a decision on who's going to be the alpha on the team and stick around, who's going to be the asset, and who's going to be. I mean, a player like that can bring back. And again, I'm not advocating for doing it, but he can obviously bring back a treasure trove of players, picks, you name it. And if you want to go further down, Marcus Smart might get you something. And a guy that we talked about at the beginning of the show, and I've said it before, Rob Williams is now your tradable asset. In the beginning of this year, you didn't have one. And now you might say you don't have one still because Rob Williams has taken so much of a leap from where he was.
Untradeable.
Exactly, where now he's considered untradeable. Before it was like, well, nobody wants him. Now it's like, we don't want to get rid of him, right? But he is still a player that if John's worried about, not having lottery picks or some sort of, up-and-coming player or two to fill a roster spot here and there, I mean, that's your guy. Or a guy that can bring in a star. I mean, Bradley Beal, for example. I mean, that's an extreme one. But a player that is a star in this league, at least a GM would pick up the phone and listen to your offer now that you might have a young guy.
What's the point, though? You're losing Brown to bring that guy in.
I'm not saying Brown. I'm saying I'm saying Rob is a centerpiece. I'm not saying you're going to get Beal with Rob. But you can get a player who is not, just some guy. I mean,
what you guys are all mentioning would be the point that it was over. The second Brown and Tatum ask out, it's over. And
if they both ask out, you're obviously screwed.
I think even if one does.
Yeah, if one asks out.
One's going to ask, the other one stays. Yeah, that's how it usually goes.
It doesn't have to get to the point where one asks out. I mean, Danny Ainge has never been shy to pull the trigger on a trade. He might see the writing on the wall. He might be like, I've already been burned by Kyrie. I've been burned by Gordon. I've been burned by Horford. Maybe he's learned his lesson and he said, listen, I'm gonna be the guy that, makes the hard decision here. Because he's also traded guys that, didn't see it coming.
Let's be real. They have a 5-year window with Brown because he doesn't have an option starting this year. And that's a longer window than Beal has in DC. A lot of these other guys that we kick around as possibilities there. I know. No. And
anytime John, a star says, I want to go somewhere, he gets to go.
Well, that's why I thought it was so important to fix this team this year. Like, don't let that happen anywhere near here. But if they keep this rolling and they stay competitive and all that stuff, they do have a little bit of time.
You also said they should tank.
No, I didn't say that. I said if you don't.
You said that 100 times. You said that, Bob.
No, I said either or. I said
that's what he's saying. You said both.
Yeah, and they did the opposite. They improved, and I give them.
You think tanking would have saved would have made Tatum and Brown happy and not want trades? You can't want both things.
I called it the T word. I said, how dare you bring up the T word, Bobby?
We said you absolutely can't tank because of that exact reason. You'll absolutely piss them off, and you could ruin, what you have with them.
They'll get that trade request sooner than expected.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, is Evan Fournier the savior that's going to keep Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
Oh, it's going to make them so much better.
Rob is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Rob is.
Freeing Rob Williams is. And you could have done that without trading for people. But anyway.
Well, we kicked around whether the Tights trade was necessary from that sense. And it did hurt, but again, it's a good result.
Just played Rob.
Could have just played Rob. Instead, Danny Ainge had to make it physically impossible not
to. The Moneyball trade.
The trick, I mean, at the end of the day, you're glad Brad isn't a guy who just changes his mindset on like a day-to-day basis. I think he's been a good coach because he sticks to his tendencies. So I wasn't going to fire Brad to start Rob, which is really the only possibility.
Danny waited until Brad left the room at 3:00, picked up the phone, and traded Tice because he knew
Brad was like, I didn't know that was coming.
Brad was like, well, the deadline's over. I'll see you, Danny. Danny's like, all right, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
It was so funny, Brad on the radio
today.
Yeah.
He was like, I was shocked when Tice was traded. They had no idea.
Yeah.
Brad loved Tice.
There goes his whole playbook.
What do you think all right, so let's dive into that for 1 second before we get out of there. Why do you think that's Brad's approach? Why do you think it is like reliable, middle of the road, like not too much variance, and not like swaying too much off a couple performances? Because all of Celtics Nation thinks Rob should have been starting, but Brad Stevens, who's the real coach who has earned this position, says it's the opposite. Like, why do you think that is?
Look, I've always said I don't think it's a basketball thing or a Stevens thing. I think it's a coach thing. There's a lot of coaches that do this, and I made a cross sports reference with Belichick. He did it too all season long, playing Jason McCourty at corner, because he's familiar and he's a veteran, and Simon's at the edge, and guys who've been around for a bit, who are more situational players, and he would trust them because they're trusted veterans and they can handle more responsibility instead of playing the rookies, Uche and Winovich and this and that. And people are like, why aren't you playing the athletically gifted people? And why are you leaning on that? Because you trust them. You're like, they're veterans. They've been in the system. They're coachable. And so, people fall into those patterns a lot. I think it's not just a Brad thing, but with Brad, again, it's, deference to the veterans, what he thinks a big is supposed to be. Rob's a kind of outside the box sort of guy where you have to like change your mindset a little bit to say, you're used to like, I know what a center does and I know what I want this position to be because I know what I want us to look like. And then you're staring at another thing that's better for you and you just don't recognize it. And I think that's what happened with Rob all year. It's still happening. He's still saying Tristan might start. We'll see.
I get it for Tice. I don't get it for Thompson because Thompson's not what they want.
Josue, what do you think? Because
I was just gonna say I think a lot of what you said is true, but I also think what goes into that is also Brad thinking to himself, like, man, like he's just not where he's supposed to be. He's not doing the pick in time. Like there was a lot of Rob, even at the very beginning of the season, where he just looked out of sync with the rest of the players. And I think a lot of the time Brad just didn't have a lot of patience for that. Because I just think he looked at that position as like it's a ripple effect. You're not giving, the screens aren't crisp enough for Tatum, and you're causing turnovers, or you're not where you're supposed to be, and guys are getting back to the free throw line. And we saw those frustrating stretches where we're like, okay, he's gonna pull him now. And sometimes he would just honestly, it seemed like he forgot to put him back in. Like he would be like, oh yeah, all right, Rob, we'll go over that stuff tomorrow. And then it was just a constant
turn it off, man.
Yeah,
no, I agree, man.
Why are we talking about real world issues?
What's the point of any of this?
What'd you think this was? Pod Save America? Like we're freaking talking about a basketball game.
True crime podcast. What's
guy just walked into a room? What podcast is this?
This isn't the Joe Rogan Experience. Why aren't we talking about aliens?
Oh man. Oh, I'm so glad this team's back on its feet, and it really feels like they are. I guess we'll see tomorrow.
Fortnite. Let's see what happens.
I guess we'll see tomorrow. And this is the part of the thinking with Fournier too. A very minor part. I don't think they did it because of this, but now you have a guy who can play on the Kemba back-to-back nights, which is pretty much going to go through the end of the season. So that should be a big boost tomorrow as well.
Who's playing point guard like all day tomorrow, all night tomorrow? Pritchard.
It'll be Smart and Fournier will probably start together.
Big Pritchard night. He's been quiet.
Every single person out there, every writer, and every single thing I wrote is positive Fournier is off the bench. And again, my immediate instinct was, maybe to start, but I have to think Brad wants this to be that 3-wing starting lineup again, and put Smart back to the bench. And everyone's like, he's going to be great bench scorer, and I don't understand that.
Well, I believe in that, but there's also this thing I've heard around Fournier that like he really sees himself as a starter, and like they might have to kind of placate that because he is in an expiring deal now. It's that Drummond thing sort of that we think about there. So it will really be interesting the way they swing it there. Brad in his pregame seemed a little non-committal to him starting.
Yeah,
he didn't really seem to be sure yet.
I like the idea of him starting eventually. Maybe not in the very beginning,
right?
But yeah, why not put another weapon out there with those starters? Why not give opposing defenses more headaches? I don't see why. What's the alternative? Especially if you have someone like Marcus going off the bench to lead that second unit. Pritchard. I mean, Grant's been playing better. And, of course, Fournier is going to be mixed in with those guys as well, obviously, because the Celtics need all the help that they can get from that second unit. So I like him being in that role, sort of like what Gordon Hayward was. Look, I'm not trying to make that comparison. I feel like it's a little overused at this point. But in that instance, it's a good time to use it, I guess. Like that's the sort of production the Celtics need from him, Fournier to do both. Yeah, I do too.
How will Marcus Smart take it? I don't know.
Smart
would be perfectly fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Jim, what do you think? I mean, he's spent a ton of time as a sixth man. I think he's used to rolling with the second unit.
That's the best part about Smart. Yeah, he won't care.
He's spent a lot of time as sixth man, but not recently. I mean, I think he thinks he's good enough to be a starter.
But he's a closer too. Like how many times will you see lineups where Kemba's not closing a game?
Jimmy. You kind of play this game, Jimmy. Fournier is going to be a free agent. Smart's not. I just think you have to play that game a little bit in this league.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I think so too. Also, yeah, that's a good point because I mean, and I've seen it so many times against the Celtics. Fournier can get really hot in that first quarter. Like that's an advantage for like guys like us that have watched this Celtics team all season long. Like how many times do you watch a first quarter where they're behind by 10 or 12 and you're just like, they're probably going to lose this game. Like I think starting games has all of a sudden like it's really important for the Celtics team. I think moving forward, even if they get out to a slow start, at least get someone out there that can get hot from behind the arc. That's not named Tatum or Brown.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I do agree with Jimmy that he probably is a better fit off the bench. Plus, you look at the starting lineup tonight; those five, that's a really good five there. Like there's just nice cohesion between them, ton of defense. And then you kind of bring Fournier in as the spark guy off the bench. From a basketball standpoint, that's the way I'd go. I think it's going to be a little more complicated with that. And
maybe.
Yeah,
no, I want Smart coming off the bench. I just don't know if he's gonna. I don't know how much he's gonna want that.
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to go off? Who wants to go to the bench?
I just think it's better. You just if you have people who can all handle the ball with that first unit and who are going to have space, having Smart running that point with the second unit, I think is just a smart move. I just think it makes more. I think it makes more basketball sense. But
the tricky thing there too, though, is you don't really have a second unit. It's like Smart and Rob and. What else is there in terms of scorers and guys to distribute to? They're still a pretty thin team.
You don't. You're right. That's a problem.
That's the second locker room.
It's not really. It's not really a second unit. It's your start. That second unit has Tatum in it. Usually just based off the rotation, he's coming in late first and running with that second unit in the second quarter to start it at least. So
real quick, who's in the second locker room? You think?
Oh my God! Well, we know that Neesmith's in the second locker room.
Because
every time he steps
I don't
on
even
the
think
court,
he gets into that one.
Every time he steps on the court, they're like, "Wait, who's this guy?"
Yeah,
we've never seen this guy.
Nice
before.
to meet you.
Pritchard
in there.
He's gonna be in there.
Grant is definitely in there. Taco's in there. Carson's in there. And everybody at the end of the bench is in that second locker room.
Grant and Pritchard are probably the ones that talk the most.
Is Rob in there?
No, I don't. Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Nah. Tatum was like, Rob, come over here, man. Come with us.
Rob's pretty quiet. I feel like Rob's quiet. They're probably like, you can come with us, Rob. You won't bother us too much.
Rob just strikes me as the type of guy who just leaves right after the game wearing his uniform and like shower shoes and just in a bathrobe and just walks right out of the building.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of accurate, man. There were times where I would walk into the locker room and he's already dressed. He's out.
Gone.
I'm like, yo,
that was when he was doing all those DNPs, though.
Yeah,
you guys.
He's not a whole court kind of guy. I do find that so interesting. Like that, you got Rob like that, and then LeBron or like someone like that, just like has like a 2-hour routine and like sits down and like holds the 20-minute court.
We've all been there, man. KG and freaking Rondo, and when I was at NBC and we couldn't go off, and we're just waiting to get those guys on the air. And it's
Tatum does it now.
An hour and 15 minutes, and I'm like, and they're just sitting there.
So many late nights just waiting.
Why do they want to hang out?
They do their own thing. They go. Rondo would get Rondo would do it to us at practice. They'd come off the court, and the media just wanted to talk for 5 minutes, and he'd be like, "Nope, I'm gonna go get 45 minutes of treatment." He would make everybody wait.
It's like they're the president of the United States. They got a whole court.
Yeah, KG would. I think that's definitely where Rondo kind of learned it from.
That's where he got it.
Where it's like,
I can do this. I can get away with this.
Screw you guys.
To make the plebs wait here, and we would just sit there and wait all day.
Celtics media relations, they didn't have any power to really stop it. They just. Sorry, guys.
He's in there.
And then you'd wait. How about you'd wait 45 minutes and then they'd walk out like, sorry, guys, KG left. He went out the back. You're like,
that would happen too.
You're like, really? Yeah, he went out the back. Sorry. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, F me.
You want to tell us? Sorry.
This comment puts it very succinctly.
Literally, yeah. No, I mean, there's nothing more dejecting. Just like
we're pawns.
Yeah, it's like midnight, and you're like, well, there goes that story.
We're pawns.
Was Kyrie quick? Was he right out there?
Kyrie was good.
He was just like whatever, yeah.
Kyrie faced the music. He talked every day.
Isn't that really amazing? Like,
he would just belittle you to your face. He didn't make you wait around for an hour. He got it over with right away.
He come right out.
You gotta be quick on your toes. I missed that.
It's unbelievable how fast everything there shifted because, like, it truly did all. I know there were moments, but, like, everything was just progressing smoothly, right? Even through that first round that year. And then right when you hit round 2, it just blew up like an atomic bomb. And it probably was just fizzling for a while, but, like, there really weren't signs or too many signs throughout those first 2 years that it was just going to capsize like that at the very end.
I'm leaving this one up here.
Romeo could be a big. So here's the thing about Romeo.
He might play Monday.
He's actually not a human being who is alive in this world.
Notes.
I haven't seen him. Have you guys? Have you guys seen him once this year?
Joe Sway's taking a couple cell phone videos from the Garden of him warming up, right?
No, that was
like Bigfoot
that
footage?
Was like 2 months ago, man.
Romeo's going to come back freaking jacked.
I'm telling you, it's Weekend at Romeo's. There's actually, it's like the movie Weekend at Bernie's. Danny Ainge tried very hard to trade Romeo this year and just couldn't get it done. So we'll see if he can actually show up on the court and play.
I'm still bullish on Romeo.
You are. Too bullish.
I'm excited to see it.
The amount of hatred you have for Neesmith is equal to the amount of love you have for Romeo.
No,
I've been pretty honest about Neesmith, though, right? Like, I want to see him play because I want to see what he can do. But every time he plays, I'm like, oh, my God, you know?
You want to see him play so you can get mad at him.
No, I wanted you because you got to see what you have in him.
Oh, I agree completely.
It's awful right now.
Romeo has a framework, and it's probably going to take.
Might be next year.
It's probably going to take some adjustment for Romeo to get back in the flow of things, but he knows the speed of the game. He knows the defense. He knows all the stuff you need to from a full year of this. Maybe not playing, but just being in practice and around the team and all that stuff. So I don't think it's going to be, especially since they were so patient with this, a massive leap for him to get back out there and do stuff, especially in certain matchups. So that's the advantage I gave Romeo. I want to be more patient with Neesmith because he didn't get to do all that. And Romeo's returns have been kind of limited despite all this time and practice and summer league, all the other stuff he had. I'm holding out hope, John, because we mentioned Grant's role. There'll be certain other matchups where Romeo is a better version of Grant. So he'll definitely get shots for sure.
So Neesmith looks like the coach's kid out there. It's like before Brad sends him out and she says, go get him.
Not Buddy Boeheim, though.
Just go get him. And Neesmith goes out there and just, he's running all around. He's diving for the ball. He's getting in the way.
Oh my God.
He's in the wrong position, and then he comes out of the game. And good job.
That's rough. All right,
John, Syracuse at 9 or 9:55 tomorrow. Celtics at 9. It's just another killer.
It's a tough one. All right. Well, we are
openly rooting against Boeheim.
We have a back-to-back. So back tomorrow. It's we're at the 90-minute mark. Once again, I want to remind everybody, and again, really good crowd tonight. We're here Friday night. Really good. Again, coming off the trade deadline where we had a ton of people, so it was awesome. Again, subscribe to our YouTube channels if you haven't already. Follow at Jimmy_Toscano, at Real Bob Manning. And again, this is Jimmy, formerly NBC Sports, CLNS Media, at Real Bob Manning, Celtics blog, CLNS Media, and Boston Sports Journal, and at Joe_Sway, Heavy.com, CLNS Media, veteran of WEEI.com, myself, John Zannis, John_ZANNIS. We're here. We're bringing it every night. We'll also have, Sherrod Blakely coming in and out, and other cast of characters on the show as well.
Where's Max? We need Max back in here.
We're gonna record something tomorrow. I got something with Max, so we're gonna try to do it early, well before the game.
So we say this all the time, and I got to give a quick run of it. For those not familiar with everything on our network, we're loaded with podcasts, particularly basketball podcasts. Joe Sway, who co-hosts the Cedric Maxwell podcast with Max. We've got some stuff coming out there, so absolutely we're subscribed to that. His own podcast, Causeway Street Podcast. Bobby Manning with Dome Theory, also on our network. Jeff Goodman and Bob Ryan, that's on there right now. Subscribe on wherever you get your podcast, but it's also up on our YouTube channel. We streamed it live earlier today. Winning Plays, Celtics Beat podcast. What else am I leaving out?
The A-List.
The A-List with Sherrod Blakely. Awesome episode this week with Sam Amick, who was a massive newsmaker.
And
really good.
The Jimmy John podcast.
Jimmy John podcast.
In development, that could be next.
In development,
totally be next.
And the Garden Report. Garden Report coming daily.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe to the podcast version of the Garden Report. We do put the audio out there the night of. So if you want to listen the next day, you can't listen the whole thing. Definitely go grab that.
You don't pay for YouTube, so you can't watch it and listen to it without closing your phone. You can just go to Spotify or Apple and download the audio version. You don't have to look at Bobby. You can just listen to it.
The voices. No, I think the picture's better than the voice.
I love this comment.
What's the point? Yeah, seriously. How about what's the point of just tomorrow? Really, what's the point?
Maybe Rob gets a triple-double this time. Who knows? We'll see.
What's the point of tomorrow's show?
What's the point of this podcast?
Tomorrow's show is all of us saying when Fournier plays and the chemistry's terrible and he shoots 27 times and Tatum's like, bruh, And
Horford goes off for 25.
I was didn't Isaiah get ejected a quarter into his first game? His first game didn't go that well. And then the second game he blew it up.
It's reason enough. Fournier is expected to play tomorrow. I assume he's going to play real minutes. We got
Lou Dort tomorrow. Lou Dort, one of the all-time.
Al Horford.
Good names.
Can't wait for that one.
Right now.
Right.
The jersey's kind of slumping up there, but
you know what? Rob's definitely gonna have a big game because he called Al his mentor his first year with the Celtics. So this could be a big game for Rob again.
This isn't the blog.
The grasshopper and the young grasshopper and the teacher.
Right, and he's come a long way. You know Al too. Al's gonna put his arm around him like, "Hey man, I've been watching you."
Guys, you don't have to listen. It's not a blog.
Kill him with kindness before the game is what Al does. Yeah, guys, see that little X in the corner?
Just leave.
Get the hell out of here. We don't want you on here either.
This blog sucks.
If I could control the comments, I would have booted you a long time ago, bud.
Yeah.
John's not giving me that privilege.
Oh yeah, you can do it. All right, guys, thanks again. We will see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.